hey, are you doubting me because you want me to succeed, or are you doubting me because you're not lifting a finger for yourself? Because if you want me to succeed, I'll keep going in the conversation and I'll listen to your suggestions. But if you're just projecting yourself onto me, I'm already out of this conversation. You're talking to nobody now because I got my idea to pursue. Every sec, this is the integrity game, right?
Right.
Welcome to the latest episode of A Squared the Show. Today we have a very special guest, Jeffrey Klubeck.
Jeffrey.
He's an author, a professor, a public speaker, and he's here to talk about his new book, The Integrity Game, as well as how he became Shaq's lucky charm.
That's right. And Jeffrey is a master of accountability and motivation. And he's going to be sharing his secrets with how he helps people achieve extraordinary results in their personal and professional lives.
So whether you're a small business owner, a top producing salesperson, or just someone looking to improve your communication skills, Jeffrey's training is guaranteed to help you succeed.
So stay tuned for our interview with Jeffrey Klubeck, where we'll dive deep into his philosophy and techniques in achieving success.
Sure. I'm curious about your biggest secret and
okay, I mean, it's no secret, man. Marry well, choose well. A supportive. I mean, that's just the first thing that comes to mind. My biggest secret is my biggest support. It's my wife. She lets me do what I need to do. She supports me 100% of the time. I'm entrepreneurial. I've got a lot of big ideas. I'm not the most organized person. She's rings around the Saturn. Amazing mom to our kids. So supportive spouse is everything, right? That's one. But there's so many. I mean, secret. It's a little bit of a trick question, I know. But I mean, my mind is searching for answers, but it all roads lead back to Marianne, and that's what's going on for me. I wake up every day and I figure out, how am I going to deserve my wife and kids? Like, I'm such a lucky dude, right? So next thing I know, I'm out of bed helping people in as many ways as I can, and it's working out so far.
So she's your lucky charm, right? Are you someone else's lucky charm?
Yeah, I had a feeling I knew. All right, this is good. Well, yeah. Shaquille O'Neal believes that I am his good luck charm. Whether or not I am is debatable, but I can tell you that he thinks I am. I mean, if I stopped blurring my screen, you'd see right there. There's Shaq right there.
Wow.
And then right there's the two shoes. Right, his size 20 something.
Wow.
Size shoes.
Shaq size, man.
Yeah, when
That's too large.
Yeah, he flew me to Miami one time for game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. But it's a big story. I have an audio recording of this story that I'd be more than willing to share, because when I was a professor I was an adjunct professor in the community college district. I got my master's degree at San Diego State University, and I started teaching there. And when this whole Shaq thing happened, it was brewing over years and years and years. But what happened was I got the call like, hey, I need you in Miami. Let's go. And I had to drop everything, get on a plane and go to Miami. And so literally it was like I parked my car at City College downtown in San Diego, took a taxi because I taught, I taught classes at the City College. I parked my car there, took the taxi to the airport, went to Miami, came back, and took the taxi back to City College and back into the class. Went right from the airport right back into class. And I was just coming up with so I'm like, all right, I owe you guys a Shaq story, right? So I began this tradition of every semester, at the end of the semester, I would tell the Shaq story on the last day. So I didn't have people do a final exam in class where they were sweating bullets and freaking out and nervous and losing sleep and on all that stuff. And turn in the final exam, we'll have a potluck. So everybody would bring food, turn in their exams, and then I'd tell the Shaq story, and we'd all celebrate this semester. It's a neat story, and I don't know if this is the context for the whole thing, but what it comes down to is fanaticism. Okay, what connected me with Shaq was my fanaticism. Right, fan is short for fanatic, and so when the long story of it is, I got good tickets to a Laker game one time when Shaq became a Laker, and I yelled something fanatically at the top of my lungs. Shaq heard it. And we made eye contact, and then I made sure he heard it every game I went to the rest of the way. And after 8 years of that, we ran into each other, exchanged contact information, and next thing I know, he's upgrading my tickets and flying me to Miami after he left the Lakers and all of that good stuff. So, know what your passion is. Find the healthy environments to unload, right? If you're going to yell at the top of your lungs, do it in an arena with 17,000 people cheering for your home team rather than, kicking the dog or, other places where intense energy can be let out in a less healthy way. Fanaticism in sports and community, it's a great environment for all of that. And I just happen to get lucky to get noticed. I'm not the only one screaming and yelling and being a fan, but for some reason that rule number 8, you guys, are you ready? Unofficial rule system. Rule number 8, or a Klubi snack. I do Klubi snacks. My last name's Klubeck, so if I say something that's catchy or worth writing down, right? I call them Klubi snacks. They're either my wife's homemade cookies, which are delicious, or something, or a nugget that I've given it, right? I'm like, hey, your cookies are so good. I want Klubi snacks too. I branded my wife's cookies as Klubi snacks, and then I started. So you could
put you can make them into like fortune cookies, basically a secret message inside the.
We got the idea.
Inside the cupcake.
hey, one entrepreneurial venture at a time. There,
exactly.
Here's what it is, right? You guys slow down because I'm jovial and I'm cracking jokes and I'm fast paced. But that's one of my coping mechanisms to process all of the blessing that I feel around me at all times. You guys understand? I'm a lucky dude, like very, very, very fortunate dude. Like and here's the Klubi snack of it all. Some things are as undeniable as they are unexplainable. You follow?
Wait, could you repeat that? I have a learning deficiency, so
I disagree. Anyway, yeah, some things are as undeniable as they are unexplainable. Like when I try to explain, I can't deny that I'm Shaq's good luck charm, but ask me to try to explain it, and I'm going to have a hard time.
I see.
Right. I can't deny that I'm happily married for all these years, but ask me to explain how that happened. I have no idea. Anyway, there's the humility thing, right? Like, in other words, there's sometimes there's a law of diminishing returns. The effort that I sometimes, and I'm verbose, I'm descriptive, I'm talkative. I think that one of my gifts is that I can explain things. I can make things easier for people to understand. But some things are just unexplainable. That doesn't mean they're undeniable. They're not, they're equally undeniable and unexplainable. And that's like the humility and the grace and the surrender to the higher power stuff, whatever your higher power is. I know that people all over the world are listening. So,
right. So you're talking about like being so in tune with yourself, right? And being so honest with yourself so that like you just follow your own passions and instincts, and there's it's hard to explain, right? Because you don't even know who you are and your own components. Like, why am I? Why do I have the passions that I have? Why, like, those things are pretty hard to explain. And by doing so, that's the sixth sense, right? The X factor, that you're just so yourself. Is that
there's a great quote out there's a great quote out there somewhere, and I don't know who it is that I need to give the credit to. I'll take the credit for Klubi snacks when I come up with them, right? But there's other things that I learned anyway. And it's something along the lines of one of the greatest luxuries in life is to be yourself. Right? Which is easy to understand, but it's paradoxical, because I think what I'm hearing you say, Ali, is, who am I? And so many people are struggling with that.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It's like, hey man, I have no problem being myself as soon as I figure out who the hell I am.
Right.
Anyway, it is funny, right? And so maybe we're moving towards integrity game. I see a cool book over your shoulder, but that's like one of the. And by the way, thank you for that. That warms my heart to see that. But that's one of the things that I'm trying to do. Most of the people in this world find it very easy to accuse others of being out of integrity or having no integrity. But it's really overcompensating for what they're missing inside. We always accuse others of what we're guilty of. It's always easier to blame the other than look within. So the integrity game, I tried to make it as easy as possible to make it fun and easy to look within. Like, how about we work on our own integrity first before we judge somebody else? How about we have a suggestion on how to improve integrity if we're going to judge somebody for not having it? It's like, don't tell me about the problem. Tell me about the solution, right? And you're not qualified to tell me about my integrity unless you've lifted a finger to work on your own, right? And now, so the integrity game presents a series of 10 questions that are easy to understand, but they are hard to answer. And that's, I'm trying to make it easier for people to look within when it comes to integrity. And I don't know if you have more questions planned for me about the integrity game, but that's part of it. Like, who am I? What's going on? There's a lot of people in the world that don't even know who they are, but they sure have a lot of opinions about things.
It's interesting that you mentioned that people have other opinions about things and not their own personal opinions.
That's
And
right.
my comment on this is people tend to, majority of people around the world just don't exactly listen to themselves, like listen to their own thoughts or listen to their own, like be
Stillness.
aware of what they are capable of and like what exactly is happening in their head. Instead, they'd rather distract themselves with all of the stimuli around them, whether it be through activities or interacting with people or just like, doing something. They have to stay active. There's nothing wrong with staying active, but you also have to, in my opinion, leave a certain amount of time, whether it be like once, twice, 3 times a week, just as much time as you can, sit down and do nothing. Literally just do nothing. Don't listen to music, don't read, just sit down. Even if you're just like staring at the wall, just do nothing. No activity. And then think. Like listen to your thoughts and see where it's going. Just see where your mind is going to travel in this short period of time where nothing is influencing your thoughts.
Yeah, the word that came to my stillness. In our stillness, we can let the world flow through us. In our busyness, we lose ourselves, or if we'd ever found ourselves at all.
Yeah.
Business is busyness.
Exactly.
And so I appreciate what you're saying. I keep a journal for my coaching sessions and my ideas and my thought flow. And when people give me book recommendations, I have a place in my journal where I write that down, but I also have a section in my journal for gratitude. So it's not 100% stillness, but I'm sitting and writing down and I'm asking myself, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? And I just
keep a journal, man.
Yeah, I mean, you guys want to? I'll this is recorded on the video. I mean, you can't pause and memorize all of this stuff, but this is what my gratitude journaling looks like. There's January, there's February.
Ooh,
you guys, right? So there's a section for you guys see that for every. I section it off, and this is where I go when I have a couple of minutes, when there's a break, when I'm waiting 7 minutes for a Zoom to whatever. It's like, all right, I'll ask myself the question, or in the morning, or at night before I go to bed, or when I'm waiting to pick up my son from something or my daughter from something. I can always go to my journal and ask, what am I grateful for? And put pen to paper. And I kind of it's not 100% still, I think, the way that you were talking about, Saeed, but it's a form of stillness for me. It's a form of being, of letting whatever it is, this unexplainable thing that has us blessed and fortunate. People say, you're blessed. Well, how did that happen? Stop. Never mind. Don't try to explain it. You're just blessed.
No, I do the same thing. Like I just pulled out my journal right now. And like what I do is I write ideas that come to my mind, like whatever I think is like a good idea, whether it be for like a short film, whether for a movie or for an app, or just like jokes, because like I like writing a lot of comedy as well.
Oh man,
whatever ideas just come to my head, I write them down. Whether I use them or not now or in the future, it doesn't matter. As long as they're there, they're documented, I can eventually one day find the time for myself when I can most probably use one of these ideas.
Yeah, David Allen is a well-known author of the book Getting Things Done, GTD, and entire software programs have been built into to facilitate the Getting Things Done system for workflow management and productivity and so forth. And that it was from him that I learned the idea of a collection bucket, or a series of collection buckets. Like we're in the shower, or we're driving, or the ideas come. You never know when they're going to come. Laying in bed. I get like sometimes I'm laying in bed and an idea will come, and how am I going to capture it? I don't want to lose it. So you want to have predetermined places where you can go and put your ideas, collect them. But it only works if you systematically go to those buckets and review and process those ideas. All right, is this now or is this later? So there's a filing system and all of that stuff. So I'm a big fan of collection buckets for our ideas, and having a journal is just such a great way to go about it.
Completely agree. And something else that can enhance remembering this idea that you're writing, or maybe even encourage you to possibly work on it, is saying it out loud. Like for me, what I enjoy is let's say I'm creating this sketch or just like a joke in my head, so that I don't forget it, and maybe I use it in one of my conversations later on to see if that, exactly, to
Test
see it,
it.
like, exactly,
Test
test the
it.
audience to see if it works or not. Maybe I need to adjust it. I'll say it out loud so that I can listen to myself saying it and see, like, because when you say it out loud and when you think it, it's two different
Totally.
ways of perceiving it.
It takes
When you
you think it in a nanosecond, but it actually takes real time to say out loud. And then you
exactly
have the muscles of your mouth has to actually move and make the sounds that your brain was considering. And there's all kinds of things. It's, practicing out loud is step number 8 in my 8 steps to fearless public speaking. It's
True.
you have
Let's
to
go.
practice out loud.
So you're saying step number 8. How many steps are there in
7.
total? 7.
Oh, no, there's 8. I'm sorry. There's only 7. I thought you were going to say how many other steps are there. 7. The 8.
Okay.
8. 8. It's prepare 8 steps to fearless public speaking. So 8 is practicing out loud, but practice makes. There's 7 steps prior to that. You want to. I mean, off the top of my head, if you want to hear them, you have to determine your purpose. And purpose, it's not just in public speaking; it's everything. As a matter of fact, the integrity game. That's the first set of questions: is purpose, purpose, purpose. Then you got to get a topic for that purpose. The topics are huge, expansive, and never ending. So you got to break that topic down into main points. So purpose, topic, main points.
Yeah.
Right. And then 4th would be subpoints. What's the if your main points are your claim statements, but subpoints are your evidence, your reasoning, your logic, your anecdotes, your examples, right? So purpose, topic, main point, subpoints. And then once you've got that, you can sketch that on a paper napkin, right? But once you've got that, now you've got to actually open up step 5 as the outline. Outline your intro, your 5 elements of your intro, create transition sentences, and start to put placeholders in the outline for the main points and subpoints. Does that make sense? And then step 6 would be to God, I haven't gone over this in such a long time, but you have to support with evidence. You have to like put the meat on the bones, right? You have to flesh that out. And then of course by the time you get to step 7, step 6 is not just put the meat on the bones, but once you've done that, you got to print your outline out, read it out, and time it. You got to get the timing down. How much time do I have to speak? Do I have 15 minutes? Do I have 5 minutes? Do I have 45 minutes? Right? What's the timing of it all? If it's a timed speech in the classroom, there's 3 to 5 minute speeches, 5 to 7 minute speeches. But in industry, you get a 15-minute block or a 30-minute block or what have you. So it's not as important to time it out in other contexts than the classroom. But 7 is to create your visuals now. Like you want to avoid death by PowerPoint. So you've got you've got your content, but the idea is you've thought about it, you've broken it down, you've outlined it, you've supported stuff. But what you have to do is you have to transition from your outline to your keywords or your note cards or your prompts. You guys understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And because nobody wants
practice.
Have you ever been read to by a public speaker? It's like nails on a
course.
chalkboard. It's the
Professors
worst,
even
right?
and all
Right,
that.
that's horrible.
I'd rather make 1,000 grammatical and linguistic mistakes and be myself than be robotic, stiff, reading word for word, turning my back on the audience and reading the board to them and all of that stuff. So I want to be conversational and fearless and be myself, and people will not even notice mistakes if I'm being myself. But people will tune me out 100% if I'm being anybody other than myself.
Very true.
I see. How do you adapt that to the Zoom world? So I know you're the master of Zoom public speaking. Okay. How do we get like public speaking in front of people? It's its own challenge, but getting it across through the computer. I don't know if you've thought about that. And what are some tips?
Well, in no particular order, public speaking is no different than anything under the sun. The more you prepare, the better you'll do. Right. So a lot of times when people think about public speaking, they think about the moment that they're on their feet or in the camera. What am I going to do? What do I do with my hands and whatever? Right. What am I wearing? Number one, public speaking is never about us. Ever, 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 ever. Isn't that ironic? It's always about us because we're the ones speaking, but it's never about us. We have no reason, no business being on any sort of public speaking stage, platform, or opportunity unless we're totally dialed in on what the listener's audience is supposed to get out of it. That's why I didn't want to start today before I asked, who's your audience? Who are we talking to? Let me make sure I have them in mind with whatever I say, right?
I see.
And so preparation, that's one. 2, it's not about you, right? And then it goes back, right? And then tactical tips. Like there's a difference between, you guys can see me right now, right? If I've got my computer in front of me or if I've got my notes and I'm taking notes, there's a big difference between that and this.
Right.
Like right now, I am looking right into the camera. Right? And so you feel it, even though right now you feel it. Now, here's what's interesting. I want to see your guys' faces and I want to read your facial expression, but right now I want you to feel that I'm talking directly to you. Now, when you're talking, right. So what I've tried to do a lot is have, I try to get my window as close to my camera as possible so I can see the facial expression. So I play around with, what are the views? Is it speaker view or gallery view? Right. And so and try not to be so rigid. We're in a brave new world of remote work and post-COVID and on, and everybody's feeling it out. And I could tell you what, I wrote there's a great book that I read recently by just a delightful lady. Her name is Debbie, and it's called Remote Work Rockstar. So funny. I'm on a podcast. It's supposed to be promoting myself. No. I'm here to tell you about everybody else. Remote Work Rockstar. And there's some really good tips in there. It's a very simple, easy to read book. It's just a series of tips. She didn't waste any time on overproduction and design and all of that. Just like get the content out there. It's really, there's a lot of good suggestions there, but make sure your lighting is set. But as far as engagement and like tips for public speaking, being yourself is really, really, really important. People, I don't know, you guys, like we did not have language, right? We used to have to read nonverbal in order to protect ourselves. Does that make sense? So you're walking along, oh, saber-toothed tiger, is it smiling or is it growling? Do you guys understand? Like we had to be astute observers of nonverbal communication to survive. Okay. Now there's other things we need to do in order to survive, but we haven't lost our ability to be astute observers of nonverbal.
We've evolved to use both. Like
we've evolved to use both.
Combine the body language with the verbal and the physical with the verbal.
My point is that they may not call you on it. They may not process it. They may not be able to explain it or write a paper about it, but don't think for 1 second that people don't see when you're not being yourself.
Yeah, that's very interesting because you know how they say, like I always hear that if you don't think of yourself as like a confident or approachable person, then you will be exactly that. What you think of yourself is what you project. So if you think of yourself as like shy and afraid, then that's how other people will see you, because you will indirectly project that image towards the people that you're talking to, especially people who don't actually know you very well.
Yeah, it's funny that word project, we project, right? Yeah. We're guilty of what we, well, it's that's part of it, projecting. But I'm trying to say it's really, you don't even have to lift a finger. It's really our observations. Yeah. I could be projecting all I want, that I'm confident or that I'm myself or that I'm humble or that whatever it is, right? But whatever somebody perceives and whatever meaning they make of it, that's their reality of me, regardless of how I feel about myself, right? So sometimes
this goes exactly to what you were saying about the nonverbal like hints.
Yes.
Because you might be saying something in a confident manner, but your body language could say something else. Because that's not, because you're not actually because you have to practice. You have to practice the full package. You can't just like have a part of it and be like, yeah, this is me, just because I said this is like
the most common one. It's like, oh, hey, what's wrong? Nothing. Wait, no. I wouldn't have asked you what was wrong if I didn't see this piss poor look on your face. No, I'm fine, really.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Exactly.
So we're saying nothing. We're saying I'm fine, but non-verbally we're saying I'm upset and don't talk to me right now.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right. So non-verbal communication has more fidelity, more truth in it than the word choices.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're aligned, unless they're in sync. Yeah, go ahead.
Klubeck, I want to know about how you got aligned with yourself pretty much and your own passions and interests. So I can't imagine, like, I don't know what it's like for you as a teenager or something, be like, hey, I want to get into public speaking, or these are my passions and interests, right? And like I can imagine, there's people that are like, that's not practical, that's not realistic, or that's not, you know.
First of all, screw them.
Okay.
Screw them.
Agreed.
Okay,
100%.
that's first
Yeah.
of all, but
Yeah.
I should let you finish your question. I'm sorry.
No, I'm curious as to, like, you can say screw them, but if it's like, maybe, I don't know if you've had people in your family that are like, oh, why are you writing about baseball or something like that? I don't know, or friends, or, you know, it's
People you care about. People's
people
opinions
you
of people
care
you care
about that
Yeah.
are doubting you, you know, and it's,
Aha.
what do you do about that?
Yeah.
Please, Jeff.
What do I do about who? I'm sorry. Watch this. Stay with me, Said. What do I do about who?
The people that care about you.
Who? Where are they? I don't. Who?
I don't know.
Wait. No, the people that care about me, or the people that care about me and are doubting me.
Mm.
Because I really know the first group of people, but I really don't know who the second group you're talking about is. Like, you doubt me, you're done. Doubt me. If you do it constructively, like, hey, I see what you want to do, and I see that there are some challenges that you're going to want to overcome, and here are some steps on how you can overcome those challenges if you want to get to where you're. That's not doubting me, that's supporting me. But somebody comes along and says, well, what makes you think you could do that? Who are you to do that? Or you can't do that. They're not doubting me, they're doubting themselves and projecting it onto me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
That bounces off me like wind on a building.
Yes, something I like to counter people like that with is asking them, how would you do better? How would you do it better? Or like give me tips on or suggestions on how to make it better.
Well, be careful. I like that. You know, like, I'm a big fan of that because I'm intense. I can be competitive. Like, oh yeah, like challenge. Like, what do you got? Show me yours. Okay, but the problem that you'll get into there, Saeed, is you guys watch this. You do the exercise of holding hands together. You guys ever done this one? Put your hands together real quick. Right?
All right.
I don't know if this is audio only, but are people going to see video of this? Right. So here's the exercise. I'm going to go fast on the count of 3. You're going to press onto your left hand with your right hand. Got it? Wait, don't start early, Ali. Don't cheat. Don't start
Got it.
Astute observer of nonverbal, right? Okay. So the idea is on the count of 3, you're going to push as hard as you possibly can onto your left with your right. I'm assuming you guys are right-handed. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Ready? On the count of 3. Don't cheat. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go as hard as you can. No, come on, harder. You guys, come on. I thought this was a podcast. You guys go harder. This isn't a podcast. No, I'm joking. You guys, stop now. Okay. I didn't say push back. Should have been like that.
Nice.
Okay. So you were sending instructions. The forefront of your brain was telling the right to push. Do you guys remember telling your left to resist? Resistance was automatic for anything that feels pressed upon.
Yeah.
Even if it's not. Even
I
if it's not
completely
pressed
understand.
upon.
No, I completely understand your point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's what happens. Somebody says, well, who are you to do that? And now you want to avoid the trap saying, well, how would you do it better? Because now you got pressed upon and you're pressing back, and now you're in a pissing contest.
Yeah.
I'd rather do the technique. Let me finish this. And I'll listen.
Course.
Is align and then redirect. If you really want to stay engaged with a doubter and a hater, if you really want to spend your time that way, you follow? Like, I don't have time to tell this person I'm going to succeed. I'm just going to show them. But if I have to, I'd rather align and redirect them. You guys see this? Watch my fingers. How easy is it to align? Instead of all that pressure, let me just align. And now wherever one hand goes, the other one's coming with. So it'd be like, you know what? I love your speculation regarding the challenges that I'm going to face on my way to pursuing my goals. Your concern demonstrates a care for me and an awareness of the situation that I'm going to want to take with me along the journey. Thank you so much for that.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so the thing is that I meant to say is that's how I used to be. I still am sometimes, like, subconsciously I'm defensive because, like, I mean, I was bullied when I was a kid, so that's my natural instinct.
Oh yeah.
But I've been working on this strategy where if someone is going to be criticizing me or anything like that, and it's someone I know at least, or maybe someone I feel like there's potential of actually getting better information than just like you're gonna fail out of this person, I won't approach them in an aggressive way. I will just ask them, like, in a respectful way, you're right, I might have some mistakes or challenges that I'm going to run into in the near future. But if you were in my position, how would you deal with this? How would you go forward? I want actual constructive criticism. I'll ask them for constructive criticism, not just criticism. I'll specify what I want so that I understand that they are, you know, receiving my message and what I want, and if they are capable of offering it.
That's
Because
the key. Is you got to. I'm encouraging you to be selective about when you have those conversations.
Exactly.
Everything takes time. And
True.
so you really want to differentiate, like, hey, are you doubting me because you want me to succeed? Or are you doubting me because you're not lifting a finger for yourself? Because if you want me to succeed, I'll keep going in the conversation and I'll listen to your suggestions. But if you're just projecting yourself onto me, I'm already out of this conversation. You're talking to nobody now because I got my idea to pursue. This is the integrity game, right?
Right.
Integrity game. Like if I have a goal, let's say I have a goal of turning the integrity, and I do. It's actually more of a mission because it's going to take a couple years. But that book over your shoulder, Ali, the integrity game, imagine a textbook version of it, right? Imagine I'm going to be teaching this class, organizational communication at San Diego State University this coming spring. We start in 2 weeks. The integrity game got noticed by the dean, and one thing led to another. And now the integrity game is going to be required reading in this class.
Wow.
Right. So they're going to read the integrity game in the first week. They're going to answer the 10 question sets that are in the integrity game. So they're going to learn about themselves, like we've been talking about. What's my purpose? What are my gifts? What's my potential? What are my goals? What's my strategy? What's my relationship to my word? What strategies will I employ? What actions am I going to take? What learning am I going to pursue intentionally? What I'm going to accomplish in this class, and who am I going to serve and give to? That's a quick rundown of the 10 question sets, right? In the integrity game. But any student that has answers to those 10 questions is going to hell of a lot more out of this textbook than they would have otherwise.
Yeah.
Does this make sense? Right. So there was another thought that I had that has escaped me, but if you guys can remind me of it. But I'm going into the classroom and I want to get people oriented individually. And oh man, there's another bigger point I was going to make, but I got caught up in that a little bit. So forgive me, boys. But the integrity game, again, it's easy questions to understand, tough questions to answer. Right. And I want, goal, mission. I want the integrity game to actually be the textbook.
Okay.
Right. Like so now what does that mean? Like, God, there's 100,000 things I need to do in order to get the integrity game in a textbook version. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I need to go with other PhDs. I need to go to the university and find out. I need to publishing. I need to draft and maybe a business plan for the book, academic business. I mean, there's a gazillion things. And I'm arguing with this hater.
In that situation, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So here, the point that I'm getting at is I know what I want to, like, I have answers to these questions. So every second of the day, every single thing that I do either integrates or doesn't integrate. And a hater who doesn't believe in themselves and wants to criticize me, I'm going to have to, it doesn't integrate. Spending time talking to that person when I could be asking for an appointment with a PhD mentor that will teach me how to write a textbook.
Yeah.
Go.
Who should I be hanging out with? The hater or the mentor?
The mentor, for sure.
Yeah. So don't let, forgive all those bullies in the past and love yourself, and don't get caught up in the temptation to argue with people because you already know you're right. You already know you're right, and you don't need them to say, you know what, man, I'm sorry I doubted you. You're right. That's going to be empty anyway. You don't respect that person in the first place. What you need to do is keep respecting yourself and go find the people that are going to help you play your integrity game.
True.
Oh, wow.
I do have a question. Ali, if you want to go ahead, because it's going to be a bit off topic, the question.
Yes, exactly. Let me continue. So I'm curious as to because the integrity game, it's a great, it's a story, right? It's about, and you learn the lessons along the way of the story, and that's what's so cool about it. I don't like, how does that translate into a textbook? And then I wanted to ask, I know you use this example in the book about like a criminal, like he loves crime, he loves stealing and stuff like that, right? And maybe how do you know that like he's well integrated, right? And he like him having that advice of don't listen to the haters is horrible advice. So how do you distinguish, like, how do you know if your
well, wait, if
like
you
noble
look,
goals?
hey man, listen, first of all, I mean, I don't care what your source of higher power, what book you read, you know what I mean? But like, isn't it like judge not? lest ye be judged. Right? So this is very, very, very tough. I mean, like, let's just talk about a guy. Like, I thought about this on my morning walk.
Mhm.
This guy is stirring up a lot of controversy these days, like the last 6-7 years. Like, you guys, there's a guy that's in the news like every day.
Yes. And he disappeared. He's
Well,
vanished
no,
now.
there's and you guys, listen. I'm hesitant to say this because
Can you give us a hint? Just so, like,
I don't know.
is he bald?
How about the color orange? Anyway,
Okay, there we go.
how many? Let's just put it this way. I'm trying to do this without red or blue, right? Red or blue,
Right,
red
right.
and blue, two wings of the same bird, right?
Yeah.
You know, and
Right.
I'm not trying to, right? Like, I'm not trying to make this a political conversation.
Definitely
Okay.
not.
But how many times, whether it was, you know, like right now, it doesn't matter who it is, Biden or Trump, right? You know, or like there's criticism, right? How has there been a president ever that's been accused of being out of integrity? And like, let's just use Trump as the example, right? How many times a day is he accused of being out of integrity or having no integrity?
Quite a lot. Yeah. it's-
Right?
Yeah, quite
Yeah.
a lot. Well, I could make the argument that nobody on the planet has more integrity than Trump. I could make the
Yeah.
argument. I don't want to make the argument, but I could. Because what it comes down to is what's his purpose. I don't decide what his purpose is. You guys, this is what I'm trying to. This is a big picture now. The integrity game isn't to judge everybody else and project my values on everybody else. The integrity game is, you know what I mean? Everybody answers for themselves, right? So back to the thing. Hey, if my goal in life, if my primary purpose in life, I decide my primary purpose in life is to hit as many pedestrians with my automobile as I possibly can. I decide that's my purpose. Well, that's kind of weird. Well, thank you for your opinion, but this is my purpose. Well, you're going to go to jail. I know. At least in jail, I get 3 square meals a day rather than having to work for a living. Well, you're going to hurt somebody. Well, people get hurt all the time. It's not my problem. We live in a big world of 7 billion people. Well, as soon as you try to argue with somebody's purpose, they're just projecting how we've been socialized onto. But you understand what I'm getting at? Like, it's hard to arrive at a judgment-free place.
Mm.
Very hard to arrive at a judgment-free place. And maybe I can write an academic journal submission study, a 17-page article to the Journal of Communication sometime about, you know, the case for Trump's integrity. Like, the guy, 100% of his behavior is integrated with his purpose and mission, which is to make as much money as he can off the backs of whatever it is, right? Like, it's attention. It's attention and power. Attention and power. He wants power and attention. Power and attention.
Mhm.
There's not anything necessarily quote unquote wrong with that, right? And I'm not defending him or anything. Believe me. Believe me. I am not defending him.
I believe
Okay, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't get my vote. He'll never get my vote. You understand? Like, that's
Mhm.
but divorcing myself as a scholar or an academic or a thought leader or a human being that wants to live judgment free. I don't judge other people, right? So now the case for Donald Trump and his integrity. There's a lot of people say he has no integrity. He has no integrity. Well, there's an argument can be made he has more integrity than anybody else because who's most consistent? Who does the same? Like, so much integrity, every single move is predictable.
He's unfazed, basically. He's like, he doesn't
Everything he
misbehave.
does integrates
Yeah.
with his. I mean,
Mhm.
right? If we tested, and if I wrote a paper and I took Trump and I ran him through the model of the integrity game,
Yeah.
right? So now you could
Mhm.
say, well, if you say fight like hell, that doesn't integrate with law and order. So like when Black Lives Matter is protesting, it's law and order. But when they're, you know, when I lost the election and stormed the Capitol, like that's out of integrity. Those messages don't integrate.
Mm.
Right? But the reality is they do integrate because they're all about his power, and they both messages, even though they contradict each other, they both integrate with his purpose.
Yeah. Which is basically keeping his power.
Which is power and attention, power and attention, power and attention.
Mhm.
So if Black Lives Matter rises up and fights police brutality, then the argument is going to be law and order to keep the system and keep you oppressed, to keep whatever it is. But over here, if I don't win the election, I don't have power. So go and fight like hell and forget those Capitol Police officers.
So I'm not.
So if somebody's, we understand what I'm getting at. There are people
Yeah.
going around accusing Trump of having no integrity, but you see what I'm saying? And I don't like the guy. I'm fascinated as a communication study and a case study for all. Like, God, you know how many studies are being done right now because of this guy. So he's actually contributing so much to the world in a weird friggin' way. You know what I mean? But I don't want to get past the judgment of it. And I watch and I study the criticism, and I watch the media from both sides and what propaganda or what rhetorical criticism or what stories are being promoted to project the agendas. But I mean, when does Trump ever do anything that's out of integrity with who he really is? Never.
True.
So you don't have to like it. I don't like it. Right.
Mhm.
But when we're just objectively understanding integrity, the way that I'm trying to help the world understand it, there's an argument to be made. And that doesn't mean vote for him or like what he's doing, but just like, hey, how many people on the planet have 100% alignment where every second of the day and every activity is integrated with what they want?
Mhm.
Most people never decide what they want, so they accuse others of having no integrity.
Okay.
Wow.
So
And
something that you mentioned is, and I feel like I'm not an expert in this, but so you mentioned power and attention.
Yeah.
And from just like my thinking about it, just like rationally, I feel like those are two major components of the narcissism. Like,
yeah.
and they're usually found in authoritative figures, you know. I mean, and these authoritative figures somehow tend to be really charismatic. I mean, we can always look at Hitler as an example because like he was able to rally a whole country to commit such atrocities. Yet somehow people found him charming, and like, you know, and he was, to be honest, he had like also the power and the attention. And it's like authoritative figures have to be narcissistic for them to be proper rulers, and people actually do listen to them. So how does that work? Well, what is it about that?
It's multi-determined, man. I mean, that's a huge, wonderful question. You need cult of personality, right? That's part of it to get people's attention. But at some point, I mean, I don't have the scholarly background, you know, to answer this in that regard, but like at some point, it's not about the charisma anymore. It's about the system. You know, Trump and all authoritarian leaders, they're a product of macro structures. Do you understand? Macro structures. So the timing, the system, you follow? Like, how should I try to say this? At some point, like they were doing like the establishment here, like they were doing everything they could to prevent Trump.
Yeah.
And they couldn't, right? Because Trump followed a playbook and he appealed to this base of voters that were being ignored by everybody else. So there's sociological strategies for how to build movements and uprisings, right? Populations of people need to rally, you know, they are discontented, right? And so it's easy to get them fired up and rallied, especially if you create some other group as the enemy, the bad guy. Does this make sense? Right? Like these people are the reason you're not happy. These people over here are the reason you're not. Do you follow? And so anybody that's downtrodden or hurting or suffering or whatever, but at the highest levels of control, etc., it's just all smoke and mirrors down here when the powers that be just have everybody fighting each other and keep, you know, collecting the money at the top, right? But but at some point, a base will get rallied, right, to the point where now there's political fear and consequence, and you know, like, right, the Republican Party didn't stand up to Trump because he did something that got this MAGA base, right, built up, and now every other Republican was afraid that if that base doesn't vote for me, my chances of getting elected. So now all these people swallowed their pride and they're kissing the ring and they're doing whatever because they don't want to lose those votes. I mean, look at what's happening right now. We can't. Are you kidding? Right? Who's like McCarthy? Like, no offense, he's a human being. You know, interpersonally, I'll find a way to love the guy, you know, however I can. But look, you came out on January 6th and said, no doubt it's Trump. A week later, you're kissing the ring, and now you don't know what's going on. And nobody knows what to believe in anymore. Like, talk about being out of integrity. But McCarthy's, it's like, well, he said this and then he said that. Well, you can make the argument. Well, everything he's trying to do is be the speaker, his primary goal. So 100% of his behavior is to be Speaker of the House. Isn't it funny how sometimes in life we want something so bad that we then justify all of that do what it takes, and sometimes we lose track. right? I think Star Wars is doing a really good job of handling this. Have you guys checked out Star Wars and seen the new Andor series?
I
No, I
saw
haven't
some
seen
of
the new
it.
series.
Oh, listen,
Yeah.
I highly recommend it, and it's so timely because you see it takes you into like I was born, I'm 50 years old, right? So 77 Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the
Mhm.
Jedi. That is like the golden years of the whole
Yeah.
thing, right? By Return of the Jedi, it's like Ewoks. Like, oh no, we're appealing to the kids in the commercial and trying to sell, souvenir cups at fast food restaurants and all of that stuff that started to happen, right? But what's really going on in Star Wars is like it's the story. It's the perennial, good versus evil and justice versus power and all these
Right.
themes, right? So what Andor does a really, really, really unique job of doing that other Star Wars movies that I can't recall anybody doing as good a job is like for the first time ever, I was questioning the rebellion. You're like the rebellion,
Right.
fight back against fascism and the order and Darth Vader and all dun, 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 right? And we're taught to believe, dark and black and white, right? Good and evil. But what's happening is like the forces are so oppressive, right? If an authoritarian system rises, the only thing that's going to get out of that is there was this great line, like, if you're not ready to risk your consciousness, you might as well get off the boat right now. Because it's going to take a very blurred line of right and wrong in order to fight this empire. So lives are at stake, thefts are occurring, breaches, and so they're showing both light and dark dealing with the exact same issues of morality and justice and order. And like I don't want to give it away, but I'm a big fan of what the latest Andor series is showing us about, right? Because we just think, oh, well, it's the rebellion, the good guys, right? But they're they're stealing
Right.
and killing and sending people into their death and hiding and lying and identity swaps and somebody knows too much if they're found out. If somebody finds that person, he knows, so we have to go kill that person so there's no trace of what we're doing. So now the rebellion that's fighting for justice is going around stealing and killing.
Wow.
So, you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So who's right or wrong? What's good and bad? And what's clean and dirty? And what's civil and savage? It's a tough
It's
word.
more gray than black and
Thanks,
white.
Jeff. Yeah. Take that for a Klubi snack. So
yeah.
what's the best way about it? So it sounds like
Read
what
the
you're saying,
integrity
like,
game, of course. The best thing is to read the integrity game.
read the integrity game. We're kind of
yeah. The truth, in all seriousness, you said it earlier. You're like, well, it's a story and it introduces a thing. No, it's a thing that introduces a story. The integrity game isn't the book about baseball. The book about baseball is my Trojan horse to get the thing out into the world. I didn't like. Who do you think? You think this is going to be a #1 bestseller on? No offense, #1 bestseller on Amazon.
No offense.
Right? This isn't going to get me on podcast and to spread my message all over the world. But integrity game got me into the classroom teaching this. So now I've got graduate, like upper division communication students that get to play the integrity game and learn about OrgCom and then go into the world, right? So,
all right.
My point is, it's a 10-point model. The integrity game is a set of 10 questions.
All right.
And I'll go, and I can screen share and show you guys whatever. Right? But go ahead,
Jeff. Please, I have this really important question / any pushback criticism. So you're talking about the integrity of an individual, right? When you're talking about these specific people, but we don't live as individuals, right? We're all in communities.
Yes.
We're all we all have, maybe individually we have different values and purposes and missions, but in order for us to succeed, we need to all work together. So how does that integrity game translate from an individual to us as a group?
Yeah, it's interesting because within organizations you have community. The communities share values, right? Organizations share rules, and do you understand? But organizations can have values and communities can have rules. But the primary, the bullseye there, right? You follow, it's like group communication, right? In group communication, there's task-oriented group communication where the reason those people are together is to get something done in a certain amount of time at a certain standard. And then there's relational communication where the reason these people are getting together is because they like each other, they have similar interests, they want to relate. So in the relational group, there are some tasks, And in the task-oriented groups, there should be some mutual motivation and morale. But the main purpose, that's back to public speaking. What's the main purpose? There's a lot of things I want to do in a speech. But what's my main purpose? Entertain, inform, or persuade. And so when you understand the main purpose, then all of the decisions should align to that. But most people never determine that main purpose. A lot of times people fail to do this main purpose. And so there's just, it's like, you ever turn on a hose at the wall and then it's spraying water everywhere, but nothing's growing?
Yeah.
Okay. Focus is more important than intelligence.
I see.
Right. And so communities, they're bonded by their I can tell you what bonds communities. Number one, the materials and artifacts that have meaning for them, social institutions that they may form that prescribe ways of doing and being, language that they understand the meaning of that non-members of the community may not understand the meaning of, right? Belief systems like holiday, ritual, festival, right? These are the things that bond community. But what bonds organizations? What are we selling? Who are we selling it to? How do they know they can buy it? How much do they pay for it? How do we deliver it to them once they've bought it? How are we accounting for the finances around this? And you make a great point, Ali. The thing is, people end up off the reservation, so to speak.
Mm.
You know, the communities have their ways of nudging out the people that don't integrate. The families do it. There's estranged family members. There's hiring and firing. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's the answer to your question. Communities have their kind of own system. So communities can exist inside of organizations. Organizations, can exist inside of communities. But each community has their own ways of doing and being about what counts as included, card-carrying member of this community, right? I mean, look what's happening look what happened to some of the Republicans. They got accused of being rhinos only because they wouldn't embrace the ethics of overturn an election. So now you're not a Republican anymore. You don't belong in this community if you don't go along with everything that we do. And so now they're on the outside. They got forced off the reservation.
So it's like division in some sense, but it's maybe good because it's like because we can't all be aligned in like Republican or whatever, blue, red, whatever. It's like, no, you need to find smaller communities that have more of the values and the same purpose that align with you, right? And so
I'm a big fan, the values. When I ask people what is integrity, and I do public speaking, I say what is integrity, I always get two answers. One answer is do what you say you're going to do, and I'll say, all right, well, what if I said I want to get in my car and hit 15 pedestrians and then I did it? Will I have integrity? Oh no, I guess not. Right? Or the other answer I get is do the same thing regardless of who's watching. Do the right thing. Do the same thing when nobody's watching as when somebody's watching. Right? Yeah. The problem is, what's the right thing? Says who?
True. Says who?
Says who? Sometimes the right thing. Like, watch this. Do you guys believe time is money?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Do you believe patience is a virtue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
It depends on what you're waiting
It
for. And you have to be
depends.
selective.
That's my point. It depends. So there's no universals about this. There's no absolutes about this. There's no judgment. Right. So in other words, Ali, your question before was about the ethics of it all, right and wrong. The ethics. I'm not as into that. What I'm trying to get into, the first point is, what do you want? What is your purpose? Decide what your purpose is, and then answer all of the questions through the lens of what's my purpose. Does this help me get my purpose? Does this enhance my purpose, expand my purpose, contract my purpose? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Who do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? And then the truth is, we are all terrible people at some times, and we're all saints at other times. Right?
True.
Raise your hand if you've ever done anything that you regret.
Yeah, of course. Totally.
So let's stop with this right or wrong, good or bad thing, and let's get focused on what we want and just make sure that we're dialed in. What is structural integrity? What happens to your microphone without the structural integrity, Ali?
Breaks. I don't know. It's not. It doesn't work. Yeah, exactly.
It'll collapse. Right? What happens to a building without structural integrity?
It'll collapse.
Falls down.
Right? Under pressure tests. Right? So the integrity game is asking us all, why are we any different?
I see. Wow.
If I answer 10 sets of questions, I have retrofit myself. And now when outside distractions come along, they bounce off me like wind on a building. Or I attract what I really am needing in my world because I'm so aligned and I'm vibrating. So, understand we haven't talked about energy and all of that. but I'm I'm upright. I'm alive.
Yeah.
Like things are coming into my life because I know exactly what I want. And I see the opportunities because I've been clear about what I want. There's stuff that's been there all along, but I couldn't see it because I didn't tell myself what I want. Right. So you understand what I'm getting at. Like structural integrity, building has structural integrity if it does what it's built to do, if it stays up, if it keeps standing, it stays up and it continues to let people interact inside of the building, right? Keeps shelter over people's heads, right? That's what a building's made to do, built to do. So it has structural integrity if when the wind comes, the earthquake comes, the car like misses the curb, drunk driver, and crashes into the corner, the whole building doesn't collapse. Fire goes off inside, sprinklers come on, got it. Okay, so the building has structural integrity. When unwanted, unexpected, undesired things come up, the more structural integrity, the less impact or damage those things will have on somebody's potential and what they're. So why are human beings, teams, or organizations any different? Why waste a good pandemic? Right? What did most people do during the pandemic? And I did some of this too. I did some binge watching and I gained some weight. But I also wrote a book called The Integrity Game, because why on earth would I let a pandemic keep me from doing what I'm supposed to do? Pandemic or no pandemic, I still have a life to live. I still have a potential. I still have a purpose in this world. Why waste a good pandemic? And so now I want to get this message out to students and organizations and podcast listeners and corporations. And I want the world to be playing the integrity game.
Yeah, I see, man. It's all about the purpose, right? That's why step one. Just you got to find it, get that structure, and everything rides on that. Amazing. We're kind of wrapping up on time. Saeed, is there something you want to say? Or
so I do have one final question before
guys, I could come back. We can do this again. Anyway.
I am completely down for that, to be honest. I am not lying. I actually do want to do. I was actually thinking about it before you said it. But the question is, and this is the one that I said was a bit off topic. So which you kind of referred to it indirectly when you mentioned energies.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask your opinion about. So I don't know if this has to do with step one, but like awareness of oneself. So so I want to hear your opinion about using psychedelics and mind-altering substances that allow you to engage your self-awareness in a level that you don't normally are capable of. So if you could share your perspective on that, I would be interested.
Thank you by the way, can I quickly thank you for asking me to share my perspective instead of sharing my experience? And I will tell you that I had.
If you want to share both, it's up to you.
I gotcha. Made you look. No, listen, man, I started college in 1990, and I attended and survived 18 consecutive semesters at San Diego State, and I've seen a thing or two. Early on, one of my English professors, he was a graduate student teaching English 100 or 200, I think. He introduced the book called The Doors of Perception. Aldous Huxley, Huxley, Aldous Huxley. But Timothy Leary, I think is the guy that okay. So when I was learning about these things in 90, 91, 92, that's 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I remember teaching in the classroom, and my students, like 10 years ago, students were dropping like Molly. I'm like, what the hell's Molly? Like, I still to this day I have no idea what Molly is. My students were laughing at me because I thought I was the hip student. I had no idea what Molly was, right? I thought I'd done it all. Anyway, my point is my point is that I've got a couple of points here. I would encourage you to go back as far as you can on this stuff. Nothing's new under the sun, right? Timothy Leary and Aldous Huxley. You want to talk about psychoactive substances that help you break down your ego defensive walls, to tap into your subconsciousness, to hear the depths of your right and really. That's scary stuff. That can be scary stuff. You got to be careful about all of that, because I've seen people on trips where all it did was unlock all of their darkness and all of their anger and all of their trauma and they go into a rabbit hole. And it's dangerous. Other people, the walls come down and it unlocks all this joy, and it's different for everybody, just like anything else. But so I would encourage you to learn from somebody other than me about that's number one. Number two is what I'd really want to say, like, why isn't sugar classified as a mind altering substance? Why isn't caffeine
Coffee.
classified? Why isn't caffeine classified as a mind altering substance? Why isn't sugar? Do you understand? Why is
Alcohol.
it high? Why isn't alcohol is right? Why is it high? To me, like, there's powers that be, right? You're supposed to, like, profit motive says get addicted to the pharmaceutical drugs, not the mind altering ones.
Yeah.
Right? So now, so you're talking about personal growth, and you're talking about finding yourself, and there's a lot of ways to do it. It doesn't have to be drugs. Like, you hear a lot about, ayahuasca and peyote from, I watched, the movie The Doors, right? And The Doors, the music, the rock band The Doors, they named themselves The Doors based on the book The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley.
Wow.
So here they're
Nice.
and he was the Lizard King and all of this stuff. You're like, wow. Right, he's going into the desert doing peyote, throwing up, and how cool, rock star throwing up, and but guess what? He's dead. All right, he's dead.
Yeah.
Okay, Jimi
Wow.
Hendrix dead.
Yeah.
Janis Joplin dead. You guys, right? And then
I
we
know
don't
what
even
you're
know
saying.
what kind of drugs like a Robin Williams did, or what.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But, like, my point is, I'm a big fan of getting to know yourself. It's rule number 1. Remember, I told you rule number 8 unofficially. Like, some things are as undeniable as they are unexplainable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But my rule number 1, these are unofficial rule systems. I'll write a book about it one day. Maybe turn them into Klubi snacks. A book of Klubi snacks would be cool. But you guys, rule number 1 is know yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Like, all of it. Get honest with yourself. You asked the question earlier, Ali, how do you blankety blank? And my answer was like, I'm still doing it. Are you kidding? It's not done. It's a journey that never ends. I might be evolved to a point right now where I'm attractive to you guys as a podcast guest, but in my own mind, I got so much growth to do. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to be better in the classroom. I got businesses to build. I got people to influence. All I think about is how much better I can be and how much more room to go. I don't pay attention to, you know what I'm saying? We want to stay humble on that journey and stay open to self-discovery. And I can tell you, watch, this is within arm's reach right here. I'm not making this up. Within arm reach, right? The war of art. Break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles.
Incredible.
Start with why. Right here. This is what's on my mind. Right? Here we go. This is right. So I may come off to you or your listeners and say, hey, there's this real cool guy. He's a professor. He's an entrepreneur. He's written books. But, like, what's going on in my head? I want to be a better version of myself. I want to get better. I want to evolve. It's a journey. It's not a on and on and on. So I don't know if that answers your question, Saeed. I'll say this. If you're going to do drugs, let me get all my book, right? If you're going to do drugs, I always have these, right? Number one. The more water you drink, the more drugs you can do, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, if you're going to do drugs, before you do drugs, make sure those drugs are not going to do you.
Got it.
Don't let drugs do you.
Yeah. Completely agree.
All right.
Wow,
what else, guys?
Thanks, Klubi Snacks. Well, on the next episode, we'll talk about some more stuff. We're kind of wrapping up on time here. And that's, like, I know you said you're always working on yourself, but you have achieved a lot, and we're here to learn, right? And sharing your wisdom, and, like, you've experienced things that we haven't, and that's why, I love to learn from you and ask you your perspective on all these things.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I love to learn too, and the best way to learn is to teach something. I got. Is this where I plug my stuff, or did I plug the integrity game enough? No.
Signing out.
I've written. Listen, if you guys want more digestible stuff, I write these books. Get a Clue in 52. Right? It's like tips. It's not a story, and it's not a textbook. It's just a series of tips. So this one is organized into 5 categories. You could see accountability, communication, marketing, sales, and networking. Right? This is the original Get a Clue in 52. And then last year with co-author Vipul Dayal, Soft Skills for Strong Leaders, we did the Entrepreneur Edition. So this is out there, right, for entrepreneurs. And then hot off the presses, you guys, the new one for this year, Get a Clue in 52 for coaches. So the categories are self-promotion, motivation, accountability, engagement, and practice building. So I want to take anybody that wants to, emerging or aspiring coaches and leaders, I want to take you on a journey and share with you what I've experienced, and hopefully that helps things get better. So those are the 4 books: The Integrity Game, the Get a Clue in 52 series. And, so I'm easy to find online. Connect with me on social. You mentioned I'm Zoom public speaking, man. I don't see myself that way, but I do a lot of live Zooms. I do Zooms like every week. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to read every Friday, Pacific time, every Friday at 9 a.m. I'm going to read one tip from this book. So tomorrow morning is tip number 1 at 9 a.m. And then 52 Fridays in a row, I'll be streaming into my social media. I'm very easy to find and engage with and interact with. So I hope to see you guys again and your audience members as well.
Let's do it.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Jeff. This has been great, to be honest. And you guys know how we sign out. Salute to the camera.
Adios.
And done.